Look, I have been doing this job for 16 cycles now, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that I have seen every species in this galaxy break. Every single one. The Krell warriors with their 4 hearts, 30 minutes, tops. The silicon-based Vortex who claimed pain was merely a concept, 18 minutes before they were begging. The cybernetic Hultar. Do not even get me started on those supposedly emotionless machines. But humans were supposed to be the easy ones. My name is Vexnal Korth, and I am what your species would call an interrogator for the Dominion fleet. Although, let us be honest here, that is just a fancy title for someone who makes other beings hurt until they talk. I am good at my job. No, scratch that. I am excellent at my job. My success rate sits at 98.7%, and the only failures were subjects who died before giving up information. The human female was brought to my facility on the orbital station Kronos 9 at approximately 1400 hours station time. Her designation was Prisoner 7743, but her actual name, according to the data files, was Mira Voss. Age 29, former combat medic turned resistance fighter, captured during a raid on our supply depot in the Kepler 442 system. She did not look like much. I have to admit, humans are such fragile creatures. Really. Thin skin that tears easily, bones that snap with minimal pressure, organs clustered together in the most vulnerable configuration imaginable. No natural armor, no venom sacs, no redundant biological systems, just soft, rakeable meat wrapped around a skeleton that would not last 5 minutes in a real fight with any proper predator species. When they dragged her into my chamber, shackled and barely conscious, I actually felt a twinge of disappointment. This was going to be over too quickly. My assistant, a young Threllan named Pip-Talk, was practically vibrating with excitement. It was his first human interrogation, you see. He had heard the stories about how stubborn they could be, how their adrenaline response made them temporarily resistant to pain. Myths, I told him, adjusting the neural probe settings on my console. Propaganda spread by their military to make them seem more formidable than they actually are. Trust me, she will break in under 20 minutes. Pip-Talk's eye stalks curled in what I recognized as skepticism. Sir, the reports from the other interrogation facilities suggest. The other facilities are run by amateurs. I interrupted, not even bothering to look at him. Watch and learn, Junior. This is how a professional works. We secured Mira Voss to the examination platform. Standard procedure. Limbs locked in position, head immobilized, sensory feeds activated. The platform itself was a beautiful piece of engineering. Really, 47 different pain inducement methods, each one calibrated to affect specific nerve clusters. No permanent damage, of course. The Dominion wanted information, not corpses. Well, usually. Her eyes opened as the restraints clicked into place. Gray eyes. I noticed, cold, calculating. She did not scream, did not beg, did not even ask where she was. She just stared at me with those unsettling human eyes and waited. Mira Voss, I began, pulling up her file on my display. Combat Medic 8th Colonial Defense Unit. Wanted for 17 counts of sabotage, 43 counts of murder of Dominion personnel, and 1 count of theft of military-grade weaponry. Quite the resume for someone who supposedly heals people. Combat Medic, she said, her voice hoarse but steady. That means I know how to fix people, which means I also know how to break them. So yes, I am very good at killing your soldiers. I have to admit, that made me smile. Defiance in the first few minutes was always entertaining. It made the eventual collapse so much more satisfying. How delightful. A sense of humor. Let me be clear about your situation, human. You are going to tell me the location of your resistance cell's main base. You are going to give me access codes to your communication network. You are going to provide a complete list of all operatives currently active in the Kepler 422 system. And you are going to do all of this within the next hour because my shift ends at 1600 hours and I have dinner plans. She actually laughed. A dry, rattling sound that echoed off the chamber walls. Dinner plans, she repeated. That is adorable. What are you having? Something still screaming, I assume? Pip-Talk made a nervous chittering sound. I raised one manipulator appendage to silence him. Begin with level 3 neural stimulation, I instructed. Let us see how funny she finds that. The neural probe activated with a soft hum. I watched her face carefully, looking for the telltale signs of the pain response. Muscles tensing, pupils dilating, the involuntary gasp as every nerve ending in her body suddenly reported being on fire. She gritted her teeth. Sweat broke out on her forehead, her hands clenched into fists, knuckles going white. But she did not scream. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Nothing. Not a sound. I increased the intensity to level 5. That should have had her shrieking. The pain at that level was not something any organic nervous system could process without vocal response. It was simply not possible. 3 minutes. 4 minutes. 5 minutes. Her breathing was ragged now, coming in short, sharp gasps. Blood vessels were bursting in her eyes, turning the whites red. But still not a single scream. Interesting, I muttered, checking my instruments. The readings are correct. She is definitely feeling it. Tip the stock. Verify the neural probe calibration. All systems functioning normally, sir. He reported, his voice uncertain. Pain reception is at maximum. Her nervous system is responding exactly as expected. She should be in absolute agony right now. Oh, I am, Mira Voss said through clenched teeth, and somehow, impossibly, she was smiling. This hurts like nothing you could possibly imagine. It feels like my entire body is being dissolved in acid, while simultaneously being burned alive and frozen solid. It is the worst thing I have ever experienced. She paused, took a shuddering breath, and then added, but I have a very high tolerance for worse things. I will not lie to you. That sent a small chill through my dorsal spine ridge. There was something profoundly wrong about a being that could describe such agony so clearly while experiencing it, and still maintain that smile. Level 7, I ordered. Pip-Talk hesitated. Sir, that could cause permanent neurological damage. Level 7. Now, the probe intensity spiked. At this setting we had seen Krell warriors literally bite through their own tongues. We had watched Vortex crystalline matrices shatter from the stress. This was pain beyond pain, suffering that transcended the normal biological responses to damage. Mira Voss screamed. Finally, she screamed. It was a raw, primal sound that seemed to tear itself from somewhere deep in her chest. Her body convulsed against the restraints hard enough that I heard something crack. A rib, maybe two. But here is the thing that still keeps me awake some nights. Even while she was screaming, even while her body was thrashing and breaking against the platform, her eyes never left mine, and they were still calculating, still cold, still absolutely aware. The scream cut off after about 20 seconds. She slumped against the restraints, chest heaving, blood running from her nose and the corners of her eyes. I thought finally we had broken through. I prepared my questioning protocol, ready to extract everything I needed. Then she started laughing again. Quietly at first, then building to something that sounded almost hysterical, except it was not hysteria. There was too much control in it, too much intent. Is that all you have? She gasped out between laughs. I have had worse during basic training. Hell, I have had worse menstrual cramps. What, Pip-Talk whispered, is a menstrual cramp? I ignored him, focusing entirely on the human. This was not normal. This was not how interrogations went. By this point, subjects were supposed to be offering up information, begging for mercy, promising anything and everything just to make it stop. Fine, I said, trying to keep my voice level. If pain alone is insufficient, we will try something more creative. Pip-Talk, activate the memory extraction protocol. That got a reaction. Her eyes widened, just a fraction. Good. Fear at last. The memory extraction protocol was nastier than simple pain. It forced subjects to relive their worst memories, their deepest traumas, over and over in an endless loop while we sifted through their minds for useful information. It was invasive. It was cruel, and it was almost always effective. The probes extended from the platform, thin needles that pierced the skull at precise points. Mira Voss tensed, and for the first time I saw genuine fear flash across her face. Wait, she said. You do not want to do that. Oh, but I really do. No, listen to me. I am telling you right now, as clearly as I can, you do not want to go into my head. There are things in there that should not be disturbed, things that I keep locked away for very good reasons. I laughed. It was such an obvious bluff. Every species says something similar. They all think their minds are special, unique, too terrible to be examined, and every time we find nothing but the usual collection of fears and regrets. Activate the protocol. Pipotok. Sir. She seems genuinely concerned. That is the point. Activate it now. He did. The needles punctured her skull with small wet sounds. Mira Voss went rigid, every muscle in her body locked tight, her eyes rolled back, showing only whites stained red with blood. The monitors lit up with a cascade of neural activity, synapses firing in patterns I had never seen before. What am I looking at? Pipotok asked, staring at the displays. I have no idea, I admitted. The activity patterns are completely abnormal. It is like her brain is fighting itself, like there are multiple consciousness streams trying to assert dominance all at once. On the platform, Mira Voss began to convulse. Not the normal muscle spasms of pain response, this was different. Deliberate, almost rhythmic. And she was speaking, but not in any language I recognized. Guttural sounds, clicks and hisses mixed with what might have been words in a dozen different human dialects. The temperature in the chamber dropped. I felt it through my thermal regulators, a sudden plunge of at least 10 degrees. Frost began forming on the metal surfaces of the platform. Is the environmental system malfunctioning? Pipotok asked, his voice high with panic. Before I could answer, every light in the chamber flickered. Once, twice, then went completely dark for exactly 3 seconds. When they came back on, Mira Voss was staring directly at me again. Her eyes had changed somehow. They were still gray, still human, but there was something behind them now, something looking out through them. I warned you, she said, except it was not quite her voice anymore. It had an echo to it, a resonance that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I told you not to open that door, but you did not listen. You never listened. Shut down the protocol, I ordered. Shut it down now. Pipotok was already working the controls, but nothing was responding. The system is locked, sir. It will not accept my commands. Override it. Use the emergency shutdown. I am trying. Nothing is working. On the platform, Mira Voss continued speaking in that wrong voice. Do you know what humans really are? Do you have any idea what we have survived? We climbed out of caves to reach the stars. We turned deserts into gardens and wastelands into cities. We split the atom and mapped our own genome. We have fought wars that killed millions and kept going. We have survived plagues that should have ended us and came back stronger. We are the species that looked at everything in the universe trying to kill us and said, no, we are not done yet. The restraints began to crack, hairline fractures spreading across the metal like ice forming on a pond. She should not be able to move, Pipotok was saying over and over. The restraints are rated for 50 times her body mass. She should not be able to move. And you thought you could break one of us with a little pain? Mira Voss continued, and now she was laughing again. Except this laugh was different. Darker. It sounded like tearing metal and breaking glass. Pain is what we are made of. Pain is how we evolve. Every human alive is the descendant of billions of years of creatures that refused to die, that fought and suffered and survived impossible odds. Pain is not our weakness. Pain is our foundation. The restraints shattered. All of them simultaneously, exploding outward in a spray of metal fragments. Mira Voss sat up on the platform, the neural probes still embedded in her skull, blood running down her face in streams. She should have been dead. At minimum, she should have been unconscious. Instead, she reached up and slowly, deliberately pulled each needle out of her head. One by one, I heard them scrape against bone as they came free. Now, she said, tilting her head at an angle that was not quite right, let me show you what real interrogation looks like. She stood up from the platform. Stood up, despite the fact that level 7 neural stimulation should have left her unable to control her limbs for hours. Stood up despite the broken ribs and the ruptured blood vessels and the massive head trauma from the extraction needles. Pipotok ran. I do not blame him. He was young, inexperienced, and smart enough to recognize when a situation had gone completely off the rails. He made it about 3 steps toward the door before it sealed shut, magnetic locks engaging with a heavy thunk. Going somewhere? Mira Voss asked. She was walking toward us now, moving with a strange, liquid grace that was all wrong for a human with her injuries. But we were just getting started. 37 minutes, right? That is how long you tortured me for. I checked my chronometer. She was right. Exactly 37 minutes from when we started until the moment the restraints broke. Well then, she said and smiled. It was the worst smile I have ever seen. Too wide, too many teeth. It is only fair that I get 37 minutes with each of you. I tried to speak, tried to access the emergency communication system, tried to do anything, but I was frozen. Not physically. My body could move, but my mind, that deep primal part of my consciousness that handles survival instincts, had looked at this human female and made a simple calculation. Predator. We were in a room with an apex predator, and we were the prey. Please. Ipachak was saying, backing against the sealed door. Please. We were just following orders. We did not want to hurt you. We had no choice. No choice. Miravas repeated, considering the words. That is interesting. Because I had a choice. You see, when your ships appeared in orbit over my colony world, when your soldiers started rounding up anyone who looked like they might resist, when you killed my family, burned my home and conscripted the survivors into your work camps, I had a choice then. She was right in front of Pitok now. He was taller than her by at least 2 feet, outmassed her by probably 300 pounds. But he was pressed against the door like a small child hiding from thunder. I could have run. I could have hidden. I could have surrendered and hoped you would be merciful. But I chose to fight instead. I chose to become something that could hurt you back. You understand what I am saying? Pitok made a small whimpering sound. I chose this. Miravas continued. Every single thing that was done to me, every augmentation, every psychological conditioning, every nightmare they put in my head to make me into a better soldier. I volunteered for all of it, because I knew that one day, eventually I would end up in a room like this, with creatures like you, and I wanted to be ready. She reached out and touched the side of Pitok's head, gently, almost tenderly. The things you found in my memories? Those were not natural. Those were not just trauma, or fear, or pain. Those were weapons. Specifically designed psychological constructs meant to infect anyone who tried to access them. Cognitive hazards, we call them. Thoughts that hurt to think. Ideas that destroy other ideas. Pitok's eyes went wide, then wider. Blood began running from his ears. And now they are in your head, she whispered. Good luck getting them out. He collapsed, seizing foam bubbling from his mouth. I wanted to help him. I should have helped him, but I could not move, could not look away from Miravas as she turned her attention to me. 36 minutes left, she said pleasantly. Just you and me now. So tell me, Vaccinal Korth, do you know what humans really fear? I tried to activate my implant communication system, tried to send a distress signal, but something was wrong. My neural interface was not responding. It felt like something was inside my head, rearranging things, blocking pathways. We do not fear pain, Miravas continued, walking slowly toward me. Pain is temporary. We do not fear death. Death is inevitable. What we fear is helplessness, the inability to fight back, the loss of agency. She was right in front of me now. I could smell her blood, sharp and copper sweet. So that is what I am going to take from you, she said. Not your life, not yet. First, I am going to take your ability to resist, your belief that you have any control over what happens next. I am going to reduce you to exactly what you tried to reduce me to, a thing that hurts, that begs, that breaks. My legs gave out. I collapsed to the floor and she knelt down beside me. You said you were excellent at your job, she whispered. Success rate of 98.7%. Well, congratulations. You just became one of the failures. The last thing I remember clearly, before the real horror began, was her reaching toward my face with those human hands. So fragile, so soft, so utterly, completely terrible. And then she started teaching me what 37 minutes actually felt like. When it was over, when the guards finally overrode the door locks and burst into the chamber, they found 3 bodies. Ipachak was dead, brain hemorrhage from whatever had been put in his mind. I was alive, technically, though I would spend the next 8 months in a psychiatric facility trying to recover some semblance of sanity. And Miravas was gone, simply gone. No trace, no tracks, no indication of how she had escaped from a sealed chamber on a space station with no adjacent access corridors. The official report said she must have had help. Outside operatives. Some kind of rescue team. But I was there, I know what really happened. She did not escape. She just left. Because the door, the walls, the station itself, none of it could have held something like her even if we had wanted it to. We had just been too stupid to realize it until it was far too late. That was 4 cycles ago. I do not do interrogations anymore. I sit at a desk. I process reports, and I try very hard not to think about gray eyes staring at me while a voice that was not quite human explained exactly how much a person can hurt without dying. But here is the thing that really keeps me awake at night. The thought that wakes me up in a cold sweat with my secondary hearts racing. Mira Voss was not special. She was not unique. According to the intelligence reports I still have access to, she was just one of thousands of human soldiers who went through the same augmentation program. Just one. And somewhere out there the rest of them are still fighting, still refusing to break, still coming back. The war is not going well for the Dominion. We are losing ground in every sector. And now I know why. It is not a question of technology or tactics or resources. It is simpler than that, and so much worse. You cannot defeat something that refuses to be defeated. You cannot break something that turns pain into fuel. You cannot stop something that keeps coming back. Humans call it spite, stubbornness, that core of defiance that makes them look at the impossible and shrug. I call it absolutely terrifying. Because in the end, after everything I did to her, after 37 minutes of my best work, Mira Voss taught me the only lesson that actually mattered. Some species survive by being faster or stronger or smarter. Humans survive by being meaner, by being willing to hurt more, to suffer longer, to pay prices that would destroy any other species. And now we had made them angry. I have started drinking heavily. It does not help much, but at least when I am intoxicated, the nightmares are less vivid. At least when I am drunk, I can sometimes pretend that I did not see what I saw, did not learn what I learned. But then I sober up and the truth comes crashing back. We tortured the human for exactly 37 minutes. And then she came back. And it turns out that was just the beginning. So there I was, 4 cycles after the incident, pushing data files across a terminal screen and trying to convince myself that this was fine. That sitting in a climate-controlled office processing casualty reports was actually a promotion, not a demotion. That the tremor in my manipulator appendages was just a minor nerve issue, not a permanent reminder of what happened in that interrogation chamber. My therapist, a Quellan named Dr. Morthak, kept telling me I was making progress. She was lying, of course. We both knew it. But the Dominion fleet needed me functional, or at least functional enough to file paperwork, so we kept up the pretense twice a week. You understand that what happened was not your fault, she would say in that infuriatingly calm voice. You were following established protocols. The human subject displayed abnormal responses that could not have been predicted. Abnormal responses. That is what we were calling it now. Like Mira Voss had simply had an allergic reaction to torture instead of turning into something that still visits me in my sleep. I was reviewing supply requisition forms, the most boring task imaginable, when my terminal chimed with an incoming priority message. Command level clearance. I almost ignored it. Priority messages these days usually meant more bad news from the front lines, more reports of human forces doing impossible things in impossible places. But ignoring a command-level message was a good way to end up demoted even further, so I opened it. Fleet Admiral Crossan wanted to see me, immediately, in person. My primary heart skipped a beat, then my secondary heart joined in, both of them hammering away like I was back in that chamber with gray eyes staring at me. Fleet Admiral Crossan did not summon desk workers for casual chats. He barely acknowledged the existence of anyone below the rank of senior commander. The walk to his office took 15 minutes. I spent all of them trying to figure out what I had done wrong, what regulation I had violated, what reason they had for dragging me into the presence of the 3rd highest-ranking military officer in the entire Dominion fleet. His secretary, a crystalline vortex, whose name I did not catch, waved me through without a word. The door slid open and I stepped into an office that was roughly the size of my entire residential unit. Crossan was standing at the window, all 9 feet of him, staring out at the stars beyond the station. He did not turn around when I entered. Vexnal Korth, he said. His voice was like grinding stones. Former senior interrogator, current administrator, level 3. Subjected to traumatic incident during interrogation of human prisoner designated Mira Voss. Approximately 4 cycles ago. Yes, sir, I managed. My mouth felt full of sand. Do you know why I called you here? No, sir. Because you are still alive. That made me pause. Sir? He finally turned around. Crossan was a Drellicor, one of the old warrior species. Scales like armor plating. 4 arms, eyes that could track 12 different targets simultaneously. He had served in the military for 40 years and survived 17 major conflicts. The kind of being who made other beings nervous just by existing in the same room. Right now he looked tired. More than tired. He looked like someone who had been carrying something too heavy for too long. In the past 4 cycles, he said slowly, there have been 73 separate incidents involving human prisoners in Dominion facilities. 73 interrogations that went wrong in various ways. Do you know how many interrogators survived those incidents? I shook my head. 6, including you. The rest are either dead, permanently insane, or missing. And missing, in this context, usually means dead, but we have not found the body yet. He moved to his desk, activated a holographic display. Images flickered to life in the air between us. Interrogation chambers, crime scenes, medical reports. All of them painted in shades of red. Facility Gamma 12, Crossan continued. Human prisoner killed 3 interrogators and escaped using nothing but a broken restraint bolt. Facility Omega 7. Human prisoner somehow caused a complete mental breakdown in 6 staff members simultaneously before walking out through a locked door. Station Helix 3. Human prisoner sabotaged the life support system from inside a sealed cell, killing 47 personnel. He cycled through image after image, each one worse than the last. We thought we understood humans, he said. Small, weak, short lifespans, no natural weapons or defenses, easy to control, easy to break. We thought taking their worlds would be like every other conquest. Overwhelming force, quick surrender, integration into the Dominion. Sir, I do not understand why you are telling me this. Because I need you to understand the scope of our mistake before I send you back out there. My blood went cold. All of it. Every drop. Sir, with all respect, I am not cleared for active duty. My psychological evaluations clearly state that I am unfit for interrogation work. I am not sending you to interrogate anyone, Crossan interrupted. I am sending you to talk to someone. Someone who might be able to help us figure out how to end this war before it ends us. He pressed something on his desk. The door behind me opened and 2 guards escorted someone into the office. I turned around and felt my respiratory system seize up. It was a human, male this time. Older than Mira Voss had been, maybe in his 50s by human standards. He was wearing Dominion prisoner clothing, but he was not restrained. Not even shackled. He walked in like he owned the place, looked around the office with casual interest, and then smiled at me. Hello there, he said cheerfully. You must be Vugsnal. I have heard so much about you. I could not speak, could not move. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to run, to hide, to get as far away from this human as physically possible. This is Dr. Marcus Reeves, Crossan said. He surrendered voluntarily 3 days ago at one of our forward outposts. Walked right up to the gates and asked to speak with someone in command. He claims he wants to negotiate an end to the hostilities. Negotiate, I repeated. It came out as more of a croak, or at least discuss terms, Marcus Reeves said. He had a pleasant voice, calm, reasonable. The kind of voice that made you want to trust him. Which, after everything I had experienced, made him approximately 10,000 times more terrifying. You see, we have been fighting you people for almost 3 years now, and while we are doing quite well, all things considered, the human leadership has decided that maybe, just maybe, we should explore alternatives to mutual extinction. Crossan gestured to the chairs in front of his desk. Sit, both of you. I sat. Dr. Reeves sat. We were about 3 feet apart. I kept my eyes straight ahead, refusing to look at him directly. Dr. Reeves has agreed to answer questions, Crossan continued. In exchange for certain considerations, medical supplies for civilian populations, prisoner exchanges, that sort of thing. But he has one condition. He will only speak with someone who has direct experience with human resistance to interrogation. Which brings us to you, Dr. Reeves said, turning to face me. The man who spent 37 minutes trying to break Mira Voss? How is she? By the way, I heard she made it back to friendly territory. Quite the escape artist, our Mira. She is a monster, I said. The words came out before I could stop them. Well, that is a bit rude, but understandable, I suppose, given the circumstances. Tell me, Vaxonal, what exactly did you learn from your encounter with her? This had to be a trap. Some kind of psychological game. But Crossan was staring at me expectantly, waiting for an answer. I learned that humans are dangerous, I said carefully. More dangerous than we anticipated. That your species has capabilities we did not account for. Capabilities, Dr. Reeves repeated, sounding amused. That is a diplomatic way of putting it. Let me be more direct. You learned that we are absolutely certifiably insane, that we have turned ourselves into weapons, that we will do things to our own bodies and minds that make any sane species run screaming. Am I getting warm?
Yes, I admitted.
Good. Honesty. I appreciate that. Now would you like to know why we are the way we are? Why humans can do the things we do? I did not want to know. I really truly did not want to know. But I nodded anyway. Dr. Reeves leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. It is actually quite simple. Humans evolved on a death world. Do you know what that means? I have heard the term, Crossan said. High gravity, dangerous fauna, unstable climate. That is part of it. But Earth was special. Earth was not just dangerous. It was actively trying to kill everything on it all the time. Volcanic eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, magnetic pole reversals, gamma-ray bursts. And that was just the geological and astronomical threats. The biological ones were even worse. He started counting on his fingers. Bacteria that eat you from the inside. Viruses that reprogram your cells. Parasites that control your behavior. Predators with venom, claws, teeth, ambush tactics. Plants that are poisonous. Insects that carry disease. Water that can freeze you or boil you depending on the season. Every species faces environmental challenges, I said. Sure, but most species face one or two major threats and adapt specifically to them. Humans faced everything, all at once. For millions of years, we did not evolve to survive one thing. We evolved to survive anything, and the way we did that was by becoming the most adaptable, most stubborn, most spite-driven species in the galaxy. Dr. Reeves leaned forward and his expression changed. The friendliness evaporated, replaced by something cold and sharp. You want to know what Mira Voss is? She is what happens when you take a species that already survived the worst planet in the galaxy and give them a reason to be angry. She volunteered for the augmentation program. So did I, so did 30,000 other humans. We let them put things in our heads that would drive most beings permanently insane. We let them rewrite our pain receptors. We let them install psychological weapons that would kill anyone who tried to probe our minds. And you know what the worst part is? He smiled. It was the same smile Mira Voss had given me. Too wide, too many teeth. We barely even needed the augmentations. Regular humans, unmodified baseline humans, were already more than enough to give you trouble. The augmentations just made us efficient. Crossan had been listening in silence. Now he spoke, his voice careful. If you are here to intimidate us, it is working. But intimidation does not end wars. You said you wanted to discuss terms. I did. I do. Because here is the thing, Admiral. You cannot win this war. You numerically outnumber us. You have better technology in most areas. You have more ships, more resources, more territory. By any logical calculation, you should be able to crush us. But we are not logical, I said quietly. Exactly. We are not logical. We do not surrender when the odds are bad. We do not retreat when any sane species would. We keep fighting, and fighting, and fighting, until either you are gone or we are. And I can tell you right now, with absolute certainty, we will still be fighting long after you are extinct. Because that is what humans do. We survive. The room was silent for a long moment. I could hear the station's life support systems humming, could hear my own heart's beating. So what are you proposing? Crossan asked. A mutual withdrawal. You pull back from human territories. We stop attacking Dominion facilities. We establish neutral zones, trade agreements, diplomatic channels. We stop trying to kill each other and start trying to coexist. And if we refuse, Dr. Reeves shrugged, then we keep doing what we have been doing. Except we will escalate. The soldiers you have been fighting so far, the augmented ones like Mira Voss, they are actually our peacekeepers, our moderates, the ones who still believe in rules of engagement. If you push us hard enough, we will deploy the real monsters. Worse than Mira Voss? I could not help asking. Oh, much worse. Mother is a combat medic. She fixes people. The ones we have not deployed yet. They were designed specifically to break things, to cause maximum psychological damage, to turn war into a horror show. You do not want to meet them. Trust me on that. Prasan studied him for a long time. I will need to consult with the High Command. This is not a decision I can make alone. Of course, take your time. I will be here. Although I would appreciate better accommodations than a cell. Maybe a suite, with a window. I miss seeing stars. That can be arranged. Vexnal, escort Dr. Reeves to guest quarters. Level 5. Make sure he has everything he needs. I wanted to protest. Wanted to refuse. But you do not say no to a fleet admiral, so I stood up, gestured to the door, and waited for Dr. Reeves to follow me. We walked through the corridors in silence. I kept my hand on my sidearm, even though I knew it would be useless if he decided to do anything. The guards followed at a discreet distance. You are afraid of me, Dr. Reeves said. It was not a question. Yes. Good. You should be. But I am not going to hurt you. Vexnal, I am not Mira. I am not a soldier. I am a scientist. I designed the augmentation program. I know exactly what we did to her, what we put in her head, and I know what she did to you. I stopped walking. How? She wrote a report. Very detailed. Sent it up the chain of command. It is required after any exposure event. We need to track how effective the psychological weapons are. You see? Gather data. Improve the next iteration. She wrote a report about torturing me, about defending herself using the tools we gave her. Yes. If it makes you feel better, she noted that you showed remarkable resilience. Most interrogators break within 20 minutes. You lasted almost the full 37 before your mind started fragmenting. She was actually impressed. I started walking again. Faster this time. I do not want to talk about this. Fair enough. But I need you to understand something. Vexnal, what happened to you was not personal. Mira did not enjoy it. None of us enjoy what we have become. We do it because we have to. Because you invaded our worlds and gave us no choice. We reached the guest quarters. I keyed in the access code, watched the door slide open. One more thing, Dr. Reeves said before entering. If the High Command rejects the peace offer, if they decide to keep fighting, I want you to know what is coming. The next phase of the war. We have been holding back, trying to minimize casualties on both sides. But if this continues, we will release the architects. The architects? Think of them as Mira Voss, except instead of just surviving torture and fighting back, they specialize in restructuring entire societies from the inside. Psychological warfare on a species-wide scale. They get into your media, your communications, your cultural narratives. They turn you against each other. By the time they are done, you will be begging us to invade just to make the internal chaos stop. He stepped into the quarters, then turned back to face me. I really hope your High Command chooses peace, Vexnal, because the alternative is going to be so much worse than anything you experienced in that interrogation chamber. And this time, there will not be any 37-minute limit. This time it will last until your entire species breaks. The door closed. I stood there for a moment, trying to process everything I had just heard. Then I went directly to the nearest waste disposal unit and vomited until there was nothing left. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. The High Command debated, argued, ran simulations, consulted with intelligence agencies and military strategists. And every day I had to escort Dr. Reeves around the station, listen to him talk casually about extinction-level warfare like he was discussing the weather. He was unfailingly polite, always pleasant, never threatening, which somehow made it worse. On day 14, Crossan summoned me back to his office. Dr. Reeves was already there, along with several high-ranking officers I did not recognize. "The High Command has made a decision," Crossan announced. "We accept the proposed terms. Mutual withdrawal, neutral zones, diplomatic relations. The war ends today." I felt something in my chest unclench. Relief, maybe. Or just exhaustion? "Excellent choice," Dr. Reeves said, smiling that pleasant smile. "I will contact my people immediately. We can have our forces pulling back within 48 hours. There is one condition," Crossan continued. "We want assurances that these architects you mentioned will never be deployed, against us or anyone else." "That can be arranged. In fact, I can do you one better. We will dismantle the entire architect program. Those individuals will be deprogrammed, rehabilitated, given normal lives. No more psychological weapons. No more horror shows. We will fight our wars conventionally from now on, like civilized species." "And Mira Voss?" "Mira will be offered the same deal, decommissioning, therapy. A chance to be human again instead of a weapon. I think she will take it. She is tired. We all are." The treaty was signed 3 days later. Official documents, diplomatic ceremonies, the whole formal process. I was there, standing in the background while the important beings made history. Dr. Reeves caught my eye during the ceremony. Nodded. I nodded back. Later, after everything was done, after he had returned to human territory, I received a message on my personal terminal. From him. It was short. Just one sentence. "Thank you for being strong enough to survive. We needed someone like you to tell the story." I read it several times. Then I deleted it. Then I went to Dr. Morthak's office and told her I thought I might actually be ready to process what had happened in that interrogation chamber 4 cycles ago. It took another year of therapy. A lot of sleepless nights, more than a few relapses. But gradually, slowly, I started to feel like myself again. I never forgot Mira Voss. Never forgot those gray eyes, that terrible smile, the things she showed me about what humans could be, but I learned to live with the memory. To understand it as what it was, a desperate being fighting back against torture with the only tools she had. The peace held. There were incidents, of course, skirmishes along the borders, political tensions, but no more war, no more interrogation chambers, no more nightmares made flesh. I returned to work eventually. Not as an interrogator. I became a cultural liaison instead, helping Dominion personnel understand humans, teaching them about human psychology and behavior, making sure what happened to me never happened to anyone else. And sometimes, late at night when I am alone with my thoughts, I think about Dr. Reeves and his architects, about whether they really existed or if they were just a bluff to scare us into peace. I hope they were real. I hope they were exactly as terrifying as he claimed. Because if they were not, if humans were willing to lie about something like that just to end the war peacefully, then that means they are even more dangerous than I thought. It means they have mercy. And mercy, from a species like that, from beings who could turn themselves into living weapons and then choose not to use them, is the most terrifying thing of all. Because it means they could have destroyed us any time they wanted. They just chose not to. They chose to let us live. And now we have to live with that knowledge. Have to wake up every day knowing that somewhere out there humans are going about their lives, being peaceful and reasonable and civilized, while carrying inside them the capacity to become something that still gives me nightmares. I saw Mira Voss one more time, about 2 years after the war ended. There was a cultural exchange program. Humans visiting Dominion stations. She was part of a group touring our medical facilities. She looked different, softer somehow. Her hair was longer. She was smiling, but it was a normal smile this time. Human, not that other thing. Our eyes met across the room. She recognized me, I saw it in her face. For a moment I was back in that chamber. Back on the floor. Back in 37 minutes of absolute terror. Then she did something I did not expect. She walked over to me, extended her hand in that human greeting gesture. "Hello," she said. "I am Mira. I do not think we have met." She was giving me a choice. We could pretend it never happened, could start over, could be 2 beings meeting for the first time instead of torturer and victim. I took her hand, shook it, felt how warm human skin was, how fragile the bones underneath seemed. "Vexnal," I said. "It is nice to meet you." She smiled. That normal human smile, Likewise, I hear you work in cultural liaison now. That must be interesting work. It has its moments. What about you? What are you doing these days? Teaching. I run a program for veterans, helping them transition back to civilian life. A lot of them have trouble adjusting after everything they went through. I find I am good at helping with that. I bet you are. We talked for a few more minutes, casual conversation, weather, station amenities. Nothing important. Then her group moved on, and she left with them. I never saw her again. But that conversation, brief as it was, changed something in me. Helped me understand what Dr. Reeves had been trying to tell us all along. Humans were not monsters. They were just survivors who had learned to do monstrous things when necessary, and when the necessity ended, they could stop, could choose to be gentle instead of terrible, could offer mercy even to those who had hurt them. That is what real strength looks like. Not the ability to cause pain, not the refusal to break, but the choice to heal instead of harm when given the option. They tortured the human for 37 minutes. Then she came back. Not for revenge, not for justice, just to show us that she could, that she was stronger than our worst efforts, that humans would always be stronger. And then when she had proven her point, when she had made us understand exactly what we were dealing with, she chose to let us live. I think about that sometimes. About how close we came to extinction. About how easily it could have gone the other way. About what would have happened if the High Command had rejected the peace offer and the architects had been deployed. I am grateful we will never know. I am grateful that humans, despite everything we did to them, decided we were worth saving. And I am grateful that somewhere out there in the vast darkness of space, Mira Voss is teaching veterans how to be human again instead of hunting interrogators through the void. Some nights, I still have the nightmares. Still wake up in a cold sweat, remembering, but more and more I also have different dreams. Dreams where I am talking with Mira over coffee, where Dr. Reeves is showing me pictures of his grandchildren, where humans and Dominion citizens work side by side, building something better than war. Maybe those dreams will come true someday. Maybe peace will last. Maybe we will learn to see humans not as threats or monsters or victims, but just as people. Difficult, stubborn, impossible people who refuse to quit no matter what. And maybe that is enough. Maybe survival and mercy and the choice to heal are enough to build a future on. I hope so. Because the alternative, the version of reality where humans keep fighting until nothing is left, is too terrible to contemplate. They came back. After everything we did to them. After 37 minutes and 4 cycles and 3 years of war, they came back. Not to destroy us, but to save us from ourselves. And if that is not the most human thing imaginable, I do not know what is.